There are places so secret, even God's house won't speak of them. For centuries, the Vatican has hidden artifacts, books, and truths so terrifying. They could rewrite everything we know about history, religion, even reality itself. Why were these 76 secrets buried? And what happens if the world ever finds out? Stay with us. What you're about to hear might just change your faith in everything. But first, like and subscribe before the next secret disappears forever. The greatest secrets aren't always the ones that are hidden. Sometimes, they're the doors no one dares to open. All around the world, there are tombs that remain untouched for thousands of years, not because they're lost, but because people are afraid of what might be inside. Let's begin with the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, the man who united an empire, the man who dreamed of immortality, and who may have built an underground replica of his kingdom, complete with rivers of mercury, a jeweled sky, and deadly traps for intruders. To this day, the central burial chamber has never been opened, not because we can't, but because modern surveys show mercury levels in the soil so high they could be lethal. And archaeologists fear that one wrong move could destroy everything inside. Or worse, release something the ancient world meant to seal forever. Next, we journey to the windswept steppes of Mongolia. Genghis Khan, one of the most powerful rulers in history, also left behind one of its greatest mysteries. No one knows where he is buried. No marker, no monument. Just stories of an elite funeral procession that killed every witness to keep the site secret. Horses were said to have trampled the ground to erase all signs. Some say rivers were redirected to flood the tomb. And local tribes still consider the land sacred, forbidding anyone to search. Many have tried using satellites, AI, even ground-penetrating radar. All have failed, and perhaps that's the point. Perhaps his tomb was never meant to be found. But not all mysteries lie in jungles or deserts. One of the strangest tombs ever discovered was hidden beneath a modern construction site in Alexandria, Egypt. In 2018, a massive black granite sarcophagus was unearthed, sealed, featureless, and nearly 30 tons in weight. It had no inscriptions, no name, just a smooth, ominous surface. Some speculated it might contain the remains of Alexander the Great. Others warned of a deadly curse. When it was finally opened, what they found was unsettling. 3 skeletons floating in a foul reddish-brown liquid. No treasure. No identity, just decay and silence. Who were they? And why would someone go to such lengths, hauling granite from Aswan hundreds of miles away for an anonymous burial? 3 tombs, 3 riddles. 3 reasons why the Vatican and many others choose silence over answers. Because sometimes the truth isn't hidden. Sometimes we're simply not ready to face it. Some truths aren't buried in tombs or locked in vaults. They're hidden in plain sight, inked on ancient scrolls, drawn onto fragile parchment, whispered between the lines of forgotten languages. They are stories the Vatican never wanted us to finish reading. Let's begin with a map. Not just any map, but one that shouldn't even exist. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis created a world map. But this was no ordinary chart. It was made from fragments of more than 20 older maps, some said to be Roman, others Greek, and even some from the lost library of Alexandria. But what stunned scholars most was what the map showed. Not just Africa and South America, but Antarctica, in perfect detail, 300 years before modern explorers even discovered it. And here's the twist: Antarctica was drawn without ice, as if the map was made when the continent was still green, still alive, still warm. But that would mean someone mapped it over 6,000 years ago, before any known civilization had the tools to cross oceans, before the Bible was even written. How could that knowledge have survived? Who were these map makers lost to time? And why does the Vatican, a religious institution, possess some of the rarest maps ever made? Some say the answers lie in archives no outsider has seen. Others believe those secrets were never meant for the public, because maps, after all, are more than geography. They are gateways to hidden history, and sometimes to hidden treasure. In 1952, archaeologists found something strange inside a cave near the Dead Sea. A scroll, not made of parchment or papyrus, but copper. Etched into it were directions, detailed, precise, chilling directions, to 64 hiding places, containing tons of gold and silver. The locations referenced valleys, aqueducts, ruins, some familiar, others lost to time. And yet, no one has ever found a single coin. The Vatican owns ancient Hebrew scrolls older than the Bible itself. So why hasn't the copper scroll ever been fully translated by their scholars? Could it point to something more than treasure? Could it lead to knowledge that challenges the very roots of religious authority? The Dead Sea Scrolls themselves were locked away in Vatican archives for decades before parts were finally released to the world. Even now, some scrolls remain unpublished. Why? What do they say? What kind of truth needs to be hidden for thousands of years? Then, there is a book that speaks in no known tongue, the Rohank Codex. Found in Hungary in the early 1800s, it contains hundreds of pages, thousands of symbols, and not a single expert has been able to decipher its language. Not linguists, not cryptographers, not even AI. The illustrations inside the book are even more bizarre. Christian crosses appear next to Islamic symbols. Soldiers march beside monks. Pagan rituals unfold beneath scenes of battle and prayer. It's as if the book came from a world where all faiths were fused, or from a place that no longer exists. Some believe the Codex is a prayer manual from a secret cult. Others say it's a warning, one disguised so well, no one alive can understand it. There are even whispers that the Vatican once tried to purchase the manuscript, and when denied, quietly buried every reference to it in academic texts. Because if a book like that can't be translated, maybe it wasn't written for us. Maybe it was left behind for someone else. 3 artifacts, a map that knows too much, a scroll that promises gold or apocalypse, and a book written in the language of ghosts. What do they have in common? They all raise one terrifying question. What if history didn't forget these secrets? What if someone made sure they were never remembered? Some mysteries aren't buried. They're carved in stone, not as myths, but as monuments that mock the limits of human capability. Because when you stand before them, you don't wonder what they are. You wonder how they exist at all. Let's begin in India with something that shouldn't be possible. The Kailasa Temple, carved downward straight into a single mountain of solid basalt, not built, but excavated top to bottom, 30 meters high, 300 meters long, over 400,000 tons of rock removed, without dynamite, without machines, without steel. Historians say it was made in the 8th century in just 18 years, but that would mean removing 60 tons of rock every day. With chisels and hammers, that's not architecture, that's obsession. And it's not just the size. The carvings of gods, demons, and celestial beasts are intricate, perfect, symmetrical. There are entire chambers, pillars, shrines, hidden tunnels. And perhaps strangest of all, millions of Sanskrit characters carved deep into the walls, still untranslated. What if this temple wasn't just a place of worship? What if it was a library of secrets? An archive left behind by a civilization far older and far more advanced than we admit. Now travel east to China, to Longyu. In 1992, a farmer tried to drain a pond near his village. What he discovered changed everything. Beneath the water were caves, massive, symmetrical, and perfectly chiseled. Soon they found 24 of them, each with flat ceilings, precise columns, and wave-like carvings running along every surface. Not a single tool mark, not a single human bone, no soot from torches, no writing on the walls, no record of their construction. They shouldn't be there. And yet they are. Some say they were grain storage, others think they were bunkers. But the craftsmanship suggests something far more intentional. Every cave shares the same design, down to the patterns on the walls, as if one mind or one central force directed them all. Geologists say they're over 2,000 years old, but the Chinese historical record, one of the most complete in the ancient world, never mentions them. Why? Did someone erase their existence? Or were they never meant to be remembered? Now to Egypt, to a monument that never stood but still changed history, the unfinished obelisk of Aswan. It lies flat in a quarry, still attached to the bedrock. If completed, it would have been the largest stone ever moved by humans. 42 meters tall, weighing 1,200 tons. That's the weight of 200 elephants, carved with primitive tools, split from the mountain with wooden wedges soaked in water. Maybe. But what were they planning to do with it? How would they move it down to the Nile, float it across the river, raise it into position without cranes, pulleys, or diesel engines? No one knows. And then the crack appeared. The work stopped. And the obelisk was left behind like a frozen moment in time. Some say it was just an engineering failure. Others think the stone broke because it wasn't meant to be lifted, at least not by human hands. 3 sites. One carved into a mountain, one hidden beneath farmland, one never completed, all built with methods we still can't fully replicate, all ignored by mainstream history, all whispering the same truth. That somewhere in our past, someone had knowledge we no longer possess. Some pyramids were never meant to be found, and the ones we're forbidden to study may reveal the most terrifying truths of all. In 1945, an American pilot flying over China spotted a white pyramid. It was massive, larger than Giza. Its surface gleamed as if made from polished stone. He reported it. Photos were taken. Then silence. The area was locked down. Officials claimed it was just a burial mound. But satellite images later revealed dozens of pyramid-like structures in the region, many aligned with constellations. Why were they hidden? And who built them, if not the dynasties we know? Now shift to Turkey. Göbekli Tepe, a temple buried for over 11,000 years, built by hunter-gatherers long before agriculture. Massive stone pillars carved with animals and symbols, too advanced, too early. And then it was deliberately buried. Why seal away something so sacred? Were they hiding it from enemies or from us? And then the Black Pyramid of Egypt, mentioned in 1737 by explorer Frederick Norden. He drew it, measured it, described it as made from black stone. But today, no trace remains. Was it real? Was it destroyed? Some believe it was never a tomb but a machine, built to harness energy, a race to protect a narrative. 3 pyramids, one hidden, one buried, one erased. They don't just challenge our history, they suggest we've only seen the surface. And underneath lies a civilization we were never meant to remember. What if the past didn't disappear by accident? What if it collapsed as a warning? Long ago, in the heart of Egypt, there stood the greatest library the world had ever known. The Library of Alexandria, home to over 700,000 scrolls, knowledge from Greece, Egypt, India, and beyond. Science, philosophy, magic. It was the internet of the ancient world. And then it burned, maybe by war, maybe by decree, or maybe by design, because some knowledge is too dangerous to survive. What was lost in that fire? Blueprints for machines, cures for disease, histories of civilizations far older than we admit. Some believe copies were taken, hidden, preserved, maybe even beneath the Vatican itself. But not all collapses involve fire. Some vanish beneath the sea. 10,000 years ago, between what is now England and mainland Europe, there was land, Doggerland, a lush green paradise, rivers, forests, people. Then the ocean rose, and a tsunami swept it all away. Today it lies buried beneath the North Sea. Fishermen still pull up ancient bones, tools, fossils, but no cities, no temples. Just silence. Was Doggerland Atlantis, or just the first warning about how fragile our world really is? And then there are the Clovis, an ancient culture in North America, masters of stone tools, hunters of mammoths, gone without a trace. No war, no famine, just gone. Some blame climate change. Others say a comet struck the Earth. But the truth is we still don't know. They vanished, and all they left behind were questions. 3 civilizations, 3 disappearances, 3 warnings. We like to think progress is forever, that once a culture rises, it cannot fall. But history tells a darker story, one where silence replaces knowledge, where oceans erase cities, and where even the most brilliant people can simply disappear. Maybe the past isn't just a memory, maybe it's a prophecy. Not every artifact in a museum was made by human hands. Some are too precise, too advanced, too alien. Across the ancient world, a few objects stand out like glitches in history, not because they're old, but because they shouldn't exist at all. Let's start with a mystery from the Roman Empire. The dodecahedron, 12 faces, perfect pentagons, circular holes in each one varying in size. Over 100 of these bronze objects have been found across Europe. None were discovered in Rome. and not a single ancient text ever mentioned them. Were they tools, ritual items, or something else? Some researchers believe they were ancient rangefinders or astronomical devices. Others suggest they were transmitters, primitive antennas. Theories even link them to lost Atlantean or extraterrestrial knowledge. Because here's what no one can explain. Their geometry is too perfect for the tools of the time, and their design, strangely similar to modern signal amplifiers. Now go south to the jungles of Costa Rica. There, hundreds of massive stone spheres lie scattered across forests and fields. Some weigh over 15 tons, perfectly round, perfectly smooth. No metal tools, no blueprints, no explanation. They were made by a civilization that vanished without a trace. But why were they so precise? Some believe the spheres align with constellations. Others suggest they are energy markers, placed to interact with forces we no longer understand. And then there's the radical theory that the spheres are navigation beacons, signals laid out for something watching from above. Still sound far-fetched. Then consider this. Deep in California's Death Valley, there are stones that move on their own. Massive slabs of rock gliding silently across dry lake beds, leaving long, winding trails behind them. No footprints, no wind strong enough to push them, no human interference. Scientists eventually blamed thin ice sheets and rare weather conditions. But even now, not all the stones move. Some sit for decades, then suddenly shift, as if waiting for a signal or an alignment. What if they aren't just geological quirks? What if we're looking at a system of interaction, a technology beyond metal or machines, built on frequency, vibration, or something we haven't yet named? 3 objects: a bronze polyhedron, a granite sphere, and a wandering rock. They come from different continents, different cultures, different millennia, but they all share one haunting quality: they do not fit, not in our timeline, not in our understanding, and maybe not on our planet. Not all secrets are lost in the sky. Some are buried beneath our feet, hidden in tunnels, chambers, and catacombs so ancient no one dares to open them, because some places weren't meant to be found. Let's begin in Egypt, but not with pyramids, with something even older, even more terrifying: the Hawara Labyrinth. First described by Herodotus over 2,000 years ago, he said it had over 3,000 rooms, half above ground, half underground, filled with tombs, gods, and sacred crocodiles. A monument so vast he claimed no Greek structure could compare. Then it disappeared. For centuries, people thought it was a myth, until 2008. When a team of archaeologists scanning the desert near the Hawara Pyramid found something. Underground chambers, deep, massive, and unexplored. They wanted to dig, but permission was denied. The Egyptian government locked the data. No report was released, and the site sealed. Why? What's down there that we're not supposed to see? Ancient technology, pre-dynastic knowledge, or something even older than Egypt itself? Now let's go to Turkey, to Derinkuyu. In 1963, a man knocked down a wall in his basement and discovered a tunnel. That tunnel led to rooms. Those rooms led to halls, and soon they uncovered an entire underground city, 18 levels deep, capable of sheltering 20,000 people, complete with wells, ventilation shafts, even a church. No one knew it was there. No one knows who built it or why. Some say it was for hiding from invaders. Others believe it was to survive a catastrophe, maybe nuclear, maybe celestial, and some whisper it was a haven from an enemy not of this earth. But the strangest part, there are over 200 similar underground cities in the region, all connected, all silent, as if the earth itself tried to remember something humanity forgot. And then to the United States, Mount Shasta, California, a mountain wrapped in cloud and mystery. Some say it hides a city, Telos, home to the last descendants of Lemuria, an ancient, spiritually advanced race said to have vanished beneath the sea. But not all of them died. Some escaped and built a new home deep within the mountain, a place of glowing crystals, healing frequencies, and consciousness beyond human. Strange lights have been seen above Shasta, disappearing hikers, people who emerge days later with stories of voices in their minds or visions they can't explain. Is it fantasy? Or are the oldest truths the ones we're most afraid to believe? 3 places, a labyrinth the world isn't allowed to see, a city no one remembers building, and a mountain that may not be empty. Sometimes what lies beneath us is darker than the sky above. Not all bodies decay, and not all beings are human. Some remain untouched by time, others by design. And the more we study them, the less we understand what it means to be mortal. Let's begin in Siberia, a discovery that defies biology. In the frozen depths of Yakutia, archaeologists uncovered a burial mound nearly 800 million years old. Inside was a woman, perfectly preserved, skin soft, hair intact, organs still flexible, and no signs of decomposition. Locals called her the Stone Princess. Her body was unlike any known mummy. No embalming fluid, no drying, just flawless preservation. Her clothing was woven with fibers not native to the region, and her face bore features unlike the native people. Was she royal? Was she a priestess? Or was she something else entirely, something not of this earth? Then to Rome, to the Vatican, where the church guards the remains of saints who should have turned to dust centuries ago. They're called incorruptibles, bodies that refuse to decay, skin still pliable, eyes still clear. Even after 300, 400, 600 years, Saint Bernadette, Saint Catherine, Saint John Vianney, all untouched by rot. Some say it's divine intervention. Others call it a miracle of faith. But here's the eerie part. Many of these saints predicted visions, end times, revelations they claimed came from a higher power, and many of those predictions remain locked away, unread, unreleased. What were they told, and why keep it hidden? Now to France, 1890. In the village of Castelnau, an anthropologist discovered 3 bones, a femur, a tibia, and a massive arm fragment, twice the size of modern human bones. He calculated the being would have stood 11 feet tall. Other giant bones were soon found nearby, then sent to academic institutions, then lost, vanished. Some say it was a mistake, others say it was intentional, because the existence of giants would shatter both science and scripture. But here's the pattern. In every ancient culture, from the Bible, Nephilim, to the Norse Jotnar, we're told giants once walked the earth. So why do their remains keep disappearing? 3 bodies, one frozen, one sacred, one silenced. All of them whisper the same truth, that human history may not just be incomplete, it may be wrong about who or what we really are. Not all bodies decay, and not all beings are human. Some remain untouched by time, others by design. And the more we study them, the less we understand what it means to be mortal. Let's begin in Siberia, a discovery that defies biology. In the frozen depths of Yakutia, archaeologists uncovered a burial mound nearly 800 million years old. Inside was a woman, perfectly preserved, skin soft, hair intact, organs still flexible, and no signs of decomposition. Locals called her the Stone Princess. Her body was unlike any known mummy. No embalming fluid, no drying, just flawless preservation. Her clothing was woven with fibers not native to the region, and her face bore features unlike the native people. Was she royal? Was she a priestess? Or was she something else entirely, something not of this earth? Then to Rome, to the Vatican, where the church guards the remains of saints who should have turned to dust centuries ago. They're called incorruptibles, bodies that refuse to decay, skin still pliable, eyes still clear. Even after 300, 400, 600 years, Saint Bernadette, Saint Catherine, Saint John Vianney, all untouched by rot. Some say it's divine intervention. Others call it a miracle of faith. But here's the eerie part. Many of these saints predicted visions, end times, revelations they claimed came from a higher power, and many of those predictions remain locked away, unread, unreleased. What were they told, and why keep it hidden? Now to France, 1890. In the village of Castelnau, an anthropologist discovered 3 bones, a femur, a tibia, and a massive arm fragment, twice the size of modern human bones. He calculated the being would have stood 11 feet tall. Other giant bones were soon found nearby, then sent to academic institutions, then lost, vanished. Some say it was a mistake. Others say it was intentional, because the existence of giants would shatter both science and scripture. But here's the pattern. In every ancient culture, from the Bible, Es Nephilim, to the Norse Jotnar, we're told giants once walked the earth. So why do their remains keep disappearing? 3 bodies, one frozen, one sacred, one silenced. All of them whisper the same truth, that human history may not just be incomplete, it may be wrong about who or what we really are. Sometimes the greatest danger to the truth isn't a lie, it's silence. For centuries, knowledge has been collected, then erased, books banned, scrolls burned, libraries emptied. But where did that knowledge go? And who decides what the world is allowed to know? Let's begin with the most guarded vault on earth, the Vatican Apostolic Archive. Over 50 miles of shelves, more than 35,000 volumes, and only a handful of people on the planet can access it. No cameras, no journalists, no unsupervised visitors. Inside may lie documents from every empire in history, letters from kings, maps of ancient worlds, testimonies of miracles or monsters, even writings that contradict the official Bible. Some researchers believe there are hidden gospels, proof of lost civilizations, even records of contact with something non-human. Why hide them? Because knowledge is power, and sometimes power is dangerous. Now travel back in time to Pergamon, once the greatest library in Asia Minor. It rivaled even Alexandria, home to over 200,000 scrolls. Until the Roman Empire took it, the scrolls were sent to Egypt, then scattered, lost, or absorbed into secret archives. Many believe those scrolls contain texts from Babylon, Sumer, and even older cultures. Documents describing technologies, celestial alignments, and rituals long forgotten. But none of them were ever returned to the public. Why? Because to control a civilization, you must first control its memory. And finally, look at what didn't survive. The Gnostic Gospels, the Book of Enoch, the Gospel of Mary. Dozens of ancient texts removed from the official Bible, branded heresy, burned or rewritten to fit a safer story, entire philosophies erased, alternate timelines silenced, and voices once sacred reduced to myth. Why? Because they taught that divinity could be found within, that humans were not powerless, that heaven was not above but already inside us. 3 examples: a vault that no one may enter, a library that was taken, and a truth that was edited. The war on knowledge didn't end in the Middle Ages. It's still happening. And the most terrifying question of all is what's been hidden, but what's been rewritten to look like the truth. Some treasures aren't locked in vaults. They're hidden in plain sight, behind velvet ropes, behind do not enter signs, and behind silence. Because the most dangerous relics aren't the ones that shine. They're the ones that speak. Let's begin in Lebanon, at Baalbek. Among Roman ruins stands a structure that defies explanation, the Temple of Jupiter. Its foundation is built from 3 stone blocks, each weighing nearly 800 tons. Even modern cranes would struggle to lift them, yet they were moved and stacked over 2,000 years ago. The Romans claimed credit, but they never explained how. And nearby, even larger blocks remain in the quarry, some over 1,200 tons. Why carve such massive stones and then leave them behind? Some believe the foundation predates the Romans, belongs to a civilization long erased, or worse, intentionally buried. Others say Baalbek was never meant for humans at all, that it was a landing platform for something that came from the sky. But here's the twist. The Vatican owns early maps and texts describing Baalbek, but they've never released them. Why? Now to Egypt, 1945. A farmer in Nag Hammadi discovers a sealed jar. Inside, ancient scrolls, Gospels, writings attributed to Thomas, Mary Magdalene, Judas. They told a different story, one where Jesus taught that the kingdom of God was within. That salvation came not from obedience, but awakening. The church called them heretical and buried them for centuries. Even today, many of these scrolls are locked away, stored in archives, untranslated, unpublished. Because if these texts are true, they change everything. And then to Rome, the catacombs of Domitilla, one of the oldest underground Christian burial sites. Inside, murals, paintings of saints, angels, even Jesus. But here's what makes them terrifying. Some of the earliest depictions show Jesus without a beard, surrounded by symbols not found in the Bible, wearing robes more Roman than Jewish, and standing next to female figures believed to represent divine feminine energy. These images have never been shown to the public in full. Some were restored, others quietly faded. Why? What was painted there that could challenge the face of faith? 3 relics: a temple too large to be human, scrolls that speak of forgotten gospels, and paintings that hint at something older than the church itself. They weren't hidden because they're lies. They were hidden because they might be the truth, and the world might not be ready for it. Some beings weren't erased from history. They were erased from Scripture. Beings too strange, too powerful, too close to the truth. Let's begin with the giants, the Nephilim, mentioned in Genesis 6. When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, they bore children to them, mighty men of old. Angels and humans, interbreeding, creating a race of giants. They were said to have walked the earth before the great flood, tall, violent, and dangerous. Later texts like the Book of Enoch describe them in horrifying detail, teaching humans forbidden knowledge, weaponry, alchemy, witchcraft. Then came the flood, and their story vanished. The church later declared these stories apocryphal, removed from canon, silenced. But here's what's strange. Almost every ancient culture has tales of giants. The Greeks, the Norse, the Sumerians. Were they all imagining the same myth or remembering the same truth? Now to the sea, to Babylon. Ancient texts speak of Ons, a creature who emerged from the Persian Gulf, half man, half fish, wearing strange armor. He taught humans writing, science, law. Day after day, he rose from the water, then returned to the depths. The Sumerians worshipped him, called him divine, but later texts cast him as a demon, a deceiver, something that came from below to mimic the divine. Modern scholars call him a myth, but what if Ons wasn't alone? What if the oceans still hold others? Now to the river that may end it all, the Euphrates. In Revelation 9 it is written, "Release the 4 angels bound at the great river Euphrates." Bound, imprisoned. Not heavenly messengers, but fallen beings, locked beneath the earth, waiting for a specific time to be released. In recent years, the Euphrates has begun to dry. Satellite images show strange structures under the riverbed. Sounds unexplained have been reported in nearby caverns, and whispers of awakening are growing louder. What if those angels weren't metaphors? What if they're real, and their time is near? 3 beings, giants born from angels, a fishman who rewrote human civilization, and celestial prisoners waiting for release. They weren't forgotten by accident. They were removed. Because if they're real, then the world we live in is nothing like we were told. Some treasures aren't lost in the jungle or at the bottom of the sea. They're locked in rooms, guarded, sealed, forgotten by history, but remembered by those who never wanted them found. Let's begin in Rome. Beneath Vatican City lies a massive underground complex. It's not just archives, it's a vault, a labyrinth. Rumors speak of golden relics from Jerusalem, ancient statues from Babylon, even crates marked with the seal of Templar Knights. But none of it is on public record. No images, no lists, just whispers from those who once worked beneath the Vatican, then vanished from public life. Why hide treasure? Because treasure isn't just gold, it's proof. Proof of events that were never supposed to exist, of cultures that challenged the church's timeline, of stories that might undo everything we were taught to believe. Now to Egypt. During Rome's conquest of the Nile, thousands of artifacts were seized, temples stripped, obelisks relocated, gold melted and repurposed. Many of these treasures were sent to Rome, some to Caesar's vaults, others to the early church. And while some are on display in museums, others disappeared into private collections, or underground tunnels, or Vatican basements. What if the gold wasn't the point? What if some of those artifacts carried inscriptions, maps, or even texts that revealed the true power of ancient Egypt? The kind of power that doesn't just build pyramids, but rewrites the human story. Finally, Pergamon, one of the greatest libraries of the ancient world, home to over 200,000 scrolls. It rivaled even Alexandria. Then came the Roman Empire. The scrolls were seized, said to be gifts to Cleopatra, but many were never seen again. Some believe they were transferred to Rome. Others say they were absorbed into the Vatican's secret collection. What did those scrolls contain? Theories range from lost philosophies to forbidden mathematics to descriptions of rituals so precise they resemble modern science. But whatever they held, they are now gone. 3 missing caches, a vault beneath the church, a river of gold stolen from pharaohs, and a library vanished under Roman hands. They may be in different places, but they share one chilling detail. They all disappeared after someone decided the world wasn't ready for them. If the heavens declared glory, what else did they send down? For centuries, sacred buildings have pointed to the stars. But some structures do more than align with constellations. They whisper of contact, of visitors, of knowledge from beyond this world. Let's begin inside the Vatican itself. In a small, rarely visited side chapel, there are statues that look wrong. Human in posture, but not in form. Elongated heads, deep-set eyes. Proportions that mimic no known human anatomy. Church officials say they are symbolic, representations of angels, but others aren't so sure. Some independent researchers believe these statues depict beings that came from the sky. Messengers, not of God, but of something older, something cosmic. They wear robes, yes, but beneath them are features that resemble depictions found in ancient Sumeria and Mesoamerica. Could these statues be artistic metaphors? Or were they modeled after something the early church had seen? Now to the Codex Vaticanus, one of the oldest and most complete versions of the Bible, but hidden within its margins, rarely shown to the public, are annotations, sketches, and cryptic symbols. Some of them depict beings descending from above, surrounded by light, but they lack wings. They are spherical, mechanical, almost artificial. Could early translators have confused technology with divinity? Could what they called chariots of fire or clouds of glory have been something else entirely? Something engineered. Now let's look at architecture. Giza, Teotihuacan, Ur. Across the world, ancient civilizations built pyramids, ziggurats, and temples with staggering precision. Many of them aligned perfectly with Orion's belt, Sirius, or the solstices. But here's what no one can explain. These civilizations were separated by oceans. They never met. They never traded. They never shared ideas. So why did they build the same things? Why did their gods descend from the sky? Why did they all speak of beings who taught them math, astronomy, and the secrets of stone? Some say it's coincidence. Others call it collective memory, but maybe, just maybe, it's something simpler. Maybe they all met the same visitors. 3 connections, statues of beings that are not quite human, manuscripts that describe objects too advanced for their time, and structures around the world built as if guided by a cosmic hand. If this is true, then we were never alone. And the greatest cathedrals on earth might be copies of something built far beyond the stars. Not all prayers are meant to be spoken, and not all rituals are meant to be remembered. Some unlock doors, others open things we were never meant to touch. For centuries, the Church has warned against occult knowledge, forbidden rites, ancient texts, but what if they weren't false? What if they worked? Let's start in Babylon. Thousands of years ago, priests performed ceremonies beneath starlit skies, rituals to summon what they called watchers. These weren't just symbolic gods. They were described as actual beings who descended from above, shining like metal and speaking languages no human had ever heard. Some of these rituals involved fire, blood, and geometry. Complex patterns carved into stone altars, chants that mimicked frequencies found in deep space. The Church later condemned these rites as demonic, but fragments of them still survive in museums on clay tablets, locked away from public view. Now shift west to the ancient Canaanites. Among the ruins of Ugarit, archaeologists found tablets inscribed with invocation texts, scripts designed not to praise, but to call forth. They spoke of drawing the breath of the dead into vessels, of placing relics beneath specific stars, of returning the soul to the threshold between worlds. Some texts reference the name El Shaddai, one of the oldest names for God, but in a context far removed from the Bible. These weren't worshipers, they were engineers of spirit, and many of these rituals match those found in Jewish mysticism, early Gnosticism, even pre-Islamic texts. Were they tapping into the same hidden current, or awakening something older than all religion? Now to a man named Enoch, a figure mentioned briefly in the Bible, but far more extensively in the apocryphal book of Enoch, banned by most Christian denominations. According to the text, Enoch was taken by angels, shown the structure of the heavens, given a calendar of 364 days exactly, a divine calendar that aligned with celestial events and sacred cycles. He was told to teach it to humanity, but it was rejected, erased, replaced with the solar-lunar calendars we use today. Why? Some say the 364-day cycle was designed to unlock time itself, to guide not just agriculture but prophecy, ritual, contact, 3 forgotten systems: Babylonian summoning, Canaanite soul calling, Enochian timekeeping, all banned, all buried, all echoing the same idea that there is a pattern, a formula, a structure beneath the surface of belief, and those who understand it can bend reality itself. They were young, innocent, gifted, and then gone. History tells stories of kings and prophets, but the stories it forgets most easily are about children, especially the ones who saw too much. Let's begin in the Vatican itself. Deep within classified archives are rumored files labeled Pueri Miraculosi, the miraculous children. These were boys and girls said to have spoken in unknown languages, drawn complex symbols they'd never been taught. predicted disasters days before they happened. Some were taken in by the church. Others were studied, then disappeared into institutions with no names. Whispers say one girl recited verses from an extinct Aramaic dialect at age 4, without ever hearing the language. Another boy drew a star map of a constellation not yet discovered. No records remain, just silence. Now to history's missing prophets. In medieval Europe, several accounts speak of children who received visions, floods, wars, the rise and fall of empires. Some were revered for a time, but as their predictions grew darker, they vanished, removed from church documents, their names scrubbed from monastic records. One such child predicted that a voice not of man will speak from above the holy place. Another described a book that cannot be burned, that no fire will touch. Their words were dismissed as madness until fragments of their visions surfaced centuries later in private Vatican journals. Why erase them? Maybe because they were right. And then the third secret of Fatima. In 1917, 3 children in Portugal claimed the Virgin Mary appeared to them. She gave them 3 messages. 2 were revealed. The third was sealed. The church released a version in 2000, a vague prophecy about the persecution of Christians, but many believe it was a cover story. One of the children, Sister Lucia, reportedly wrote that the final secret included a vision of a great rupture, a false church, a voice from the stars, and a figure dressed in white who would betray his own flock. Even popes have hinted that the full message has never been released. 3 stories, children who dreamed beyond human limits, visions that shook the very foundation of faith, prophecies too dangerous to speak aloud. They were called chosen, but history made them vanish. And if their words were true, then something has been coming for a long, long time. They were young, innocent, gifted, and then gone. History tells stories of kings and prophets, but the stories it forgets most easily are about children, especially the ones who saw too much. Let's begin in the Vatican itself. Deep within classified archives are rumored files labeled Pueri Miraculosi, the miraculous children. These were boys and girls said to have spoken in unknown languages, drawn complex symbols they'd never been taught, predicted disasters days before they happened. Some were taken in by the church. Others were studied, then disappeared into institutions with no names. Whispers say one girl recited verses from an extinct Aramaic dialect at age 4, without ever hearing the language. Another boy drew a star map of a constellation not yet discovered. No records remain, just silence. Now to history's missing prophets. In medieval Europe, several accounts speak of children who received visions, floods, wars, the rise and fall of empires. Some were revered for a time, but as their predictions grew darker, they vanished, removed from church documents, their names scrubbed from monastic records. One such child predicted that a voice not of man will speak from above the holy place. Another described a book that cannot be burned, that no fire will touch. Their words were dismissed as madness until fragments of their visions surfaced centuries later in private Vatican journals. Why erase them? Maybe because they were right. And then the third secret of Fatima. In 1917, 3 children in Portugal claimed the Virgin Mary appeared to them. She gave them 3 messages. 2 were revealed, the 3rd was sealed. The church released a version in 2000, a vague prophecy about the persecution of Christians, but many believe it was a cover story. One of the children, Sister Lucia, reportedly wrote that the final secret included a vision of a great rupture, a false church, a voice from the stars, and a figure dressed in white who would betray his own flock. Even popes have hinted that the full message has never been released. 3 stories, children who dreamed beyond human limits, visions that shook the very foundation of faith, prophecies too dangerous to speak aloud. They were called chosen, but history made them vanish. And if their words were true, then something has been coming for a long, long time. We were told that all men die, that the body decays. That time spares no one. But what if that's not entirely true? What if some bodies don't obey the rules and some souls never leave? Let's begin with the saints who never ate. Throughout history, there are dozens of accounts of men and women who lived for years, sometimes decades, without consuming food or water. One such case is Saint Catherine of Siena, who reportedly lived only on the Eucharist for years. Another is Therese Neumann, a German mystic who stopped eating at age 25 and lived nearly 40 more years. Doctors examined her, watched her, found no deception, no malnutrition, no decline. When asked how she survived, she said, "I am fed by what you cannot see." The church never canonized her, but they also never disproved her. Now to a hermit, a figure known only as the Watcher. Hidden in the Carpathian Mountains, he was said to be over 200 years old. Villagers claimed he never aged, that his eyes were bright, that he spoke in riddles, but always of future events. In 1939, a Polish priest documented a meeting with him. He wrote, "This man speaks as if time is something he no longer belongs to." After the war, the Watcher vanished, but stories of a wandering immortal persisted across 3 countries. Was he a myth, a metaphor, or a man who discovered something ancient and escaped the reach of time? And finally, the martyrs who wouldn't die. During the Roman persecutions, there were Christians who were tortured, burned, even beheaded, only to survive. One girl was thrown into a furnace and emerged untouched. Another was drowned, then woke up 3 days later in a tomb, smiling. The church documented these events, but quietly labeled many of them symbolic. Yet relics of these same people are still venerated in basilicas. Incorrupt bones, heart tissue that never blackened, skin that refused to rot. Why? What kind of force holds life inside a body long after death? 3 mysteries, people who never needed food, a man who outlived generations, and believers who simply refuse to die. Are these miracles, or signs that some humans have touched a different law of nature? Maybe immortality isn't a gift. Maybe it's knowledge, and maybe someone somewhere has already unlocked it. We're told we live once, that when we die it ends, heaven or hell, light or darkness. But what if death isn't the end? What if the soul doesn't vanish, but returns? Let's begin with what the Vatican never speaks of publicly, but tracks in secret. For decades, there have been reports of children, young, barely able to read, describing lives they never lived. They name towns, families, even causes of death. Some draw maps of villages they've never visited. Others speak languages they were never taught. In 1972, a Vatican-affiliated research unit quietly investigated over 40 of these cases. The files were labeled Anima Aeternam, the soul again. Most of the cases were from India, Tibet, and South America, but a few came from Italy, Spain, even within walking distance of the Vatican walls. None of those files were ever published. Now to the stories of soul transfer. In rare and deeply disturbing cases, adults have reported a sudden, violent shift in identity. They wake up knowing things they shouldn't, memories not their own, phobias they never had, allergies that appear overnight. One woman in France reportedly woke up speaking fluent ancient Greek after a near-death experience. Another man in Brazil claimed to be a 17th century sailor and provided details of a shipwreck only confirmed years later. Are these mental disorders, or moments when a soul from the past re-enters a living body? And finally, one of the most unusual stories buried in the Vatican's historical journals. A 19th century priest began experiencing recurring visions of deserts, ancient cities, a life lived under another name. He began writing in a script that no scholar could recognize. Later, it was matched to early Akkadian. He claimed in his private writings that he had once been a priest of a forgotten god, that he had betrayed his temple, and now, centuries later, was sent to serve again in a different church. When he died, his journals were sealed. Some believe he was delusional, others believe he remembered. 3 mysteries: children who remember dying, adults who become someone else, and a priest who claimed to have lived twice. If reincarnation is real, then the soul is not bound by time, not by creed, not even by death. And the question isn't, can we come back? It's, how many times have we already been here? Science was meant to measure the body, but what happens when it tries to measure the soul? For centuries, the Vatican has warned against mixing faith with technology, but behind closed doors, others tried. Let's begin with a machine. In the 1930s, an Italian priest and physicist named Father Pellegrino Ernetti claimed to have built a device, a chronovisor. It wasn't designed to hear confessions, but to record echoes of the past. Not voices, but vibrations of the soul. Ernetti claimed he saw visions of Christ's crucifixion, ancient speeches, lost music. The machine was dismantled. The Vatican denied it ever existed, but Ernetti's notes remained. And years later, patents surfaced that mirrored his design. Was he lying? Or did he prove that memory and spirit leave a mark on reality? Now to the relics. Across the world, churches possess sacred objects, pieces of wood, bones of saints, shards of the cross. But what if they're more than symbols? In 1997, a group of researchers in Poland tested a reliquary said to contain a saint's hand. When placed near sensitive instruments, electromagnetic patterns shifted, plants grew faster, water crystallized differently. The church stopped the study, but the data was leaked. Some relics, it turns out, emit low-frequency fields, not explainable by the material they're made of. What are they resonating with? And why does the church treat them like radioactive cores, locked in vaults, touched only by gloved hands? Finally, ritual astrology, a practice banned since the Middle Ages, but still used in secret. In the 1600s, Jesuit scholars attempted to chart not just the stars, but human souls. They created maps connecting planetary movement to emotion, memory, even dreams. Some monks believed eclipses were gateways, moments when spiritual energy could be magnified. Others used lunar cycles to predict visions or induce them. One monk reportedly entered a trance during a solstice alignment. When he awoke, he spoke in riddles for 3 days, describing events that would happen in 3 centuries. Every word was recorded, then locked away. The document has never been seen again. 3 forbidden paths, a machine to hear the soul, a relic that pulses with invisible force, and maps that link the cosmos to the spirit. Are these experiments or blueprints? And if the spirit can be measured, then maybe it can be moved. We think time moves in one direction. That space is fixed. That heaven is above and earth is below. But what if those lines blur? What if they already have? Let's begin with time itself. There are stories, quiet ones, of moments when time stopped. A monastery in Spain, where a candle stayed lit for 3 days but never burned down. A clock in a Polish cathedral that froze for exactly 13 minutes, right as the congregation prayed for a boy who had just drowned. When he was pulled from the water, he was alive, with no brain damage and no explanation. In 1984, a Vatican astronomer wrote in a sealed paper, "If time can bend, then prayer may not be about reaching God, but aligning with Him." The paper was never released. Now to the messengers, angels, not as winged cherubs, but as beings of light. In multiple cases across Europe and South America, people have reported encounters with glowing entities that stopped car crashes, led them out of fires, or whispered warnings just before tragedy struck. But here's what's strange. These beings don't always speak. They transmit emotion, vision, soundless clarity, and they vanish in a blink. Witnesses describe them as pure intelligence, energy in form, not from here but not frightening. Some researchers believe these are momentary crossings between dimensions. Others believe they are echoes from a higher realm. The church calls them miracles, but never investigates them fully. And finally, those who almost died. Near-death experiences often follow the same pattern. A tunnel, a presence, a conversation without words. One man said, "I stood before a being made of memory. It knew everything I had ever done and loved me anyway." Another said he asked to stay. The response, "You still have questions, go back." In multiple cases, people returned with knowledge they couldn't explain. Mathematical patterns, lost languages, even drawings of star systems only recently discovered. 3 phenomena: time that bends, light that walks beside us, and messengers waiting at the threshold between life and death. What if these aren't anomalies? What if they're intersections? Portals where dimensions touch, where heaven leans close enough to breathe. And what if the Vatican knows, because it's standing right at the center? Not every gospel made it into the Bible. Some were erased, hidden, burned, not because they were false, but because they were dangerous. Dangerous to authority, to power, to control. Let's begin with Mary Magdalene. In 1896, a fragile papyrus was discovered in Egypt. It told a different story. Mary wasn't just a follower, she was a teacher, a voice. the one Jesus trusted most. In the Gospel of Mary, she speaks of inner vision, of the soul's ascent. She says salvation comes not through fear, but through knowledge. She challenges Peter, leads the disciples, and speaks of a direct connection to the divine. The church rejected it, said it was Gnostic fiction. But why did early Christian communities preserve it in secret? And why did it survive at all if it wasn't sacred? Now to Judas. In 2006, a lost gospel emerged from a cave in Egypt. It was the Gospel of Judas. And it shocked the world. Because in it, Judas wasn't a traitor, he was chosen. Jesus asked him to betray, not as a sin, but as a necessary step, a sacrifice, a secret between them. The text suggests Jesus wanted to leave his earthly body. That death was not defeat, but escape. The church condemned it instantly. Heresy, deception. But scholars noted its language was authentic, its theology ancient. What if Judas wasn't evil? What if the betrayal was part of the plan? And finally, Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas is unlike any other. It contains no miracles, no crucifixion, no resurrection, just words, sayings. 114 of them. Jesus says, "Split a piece of wood and I am there. Lift a stone and you will find me." He tells the listener, the kingdom is inside you and outside you. He says, when you come to know yourselves, then you will realize you are children of the living Father. No rituals, no priests, no intermediaries, just awakening. The church couldn't allow that. Because if you don't need a gatekeeper, you can walk straight through the gates. 3 Gospels, one from a woman silenced, one from a man cursed, one from a teacher who taught only truth. They were erased, not because they lied, but because they empowered. And when you control what people read, you control what they believe. Not all saints are remembered in stained glass. Some are hidden, forgotten, or buried on purpose, because their stories raise questions the church has no answer for. Let's begin with Malachi, a 12th century Irish archbishop who claimed to receive visions from God, not of heaven, but of the future. He wrote down a list, 112 Latin phrases, each one describing a future pope, by symbol, by motto, by deed. For centuries, his prophecy matched every new pope, from the sailor pope to the olive branch. The 111th entry described Pope Benedict XVI. The 112th, the final pope, is listed as Peter the Roman, the one who would see Rome destroyed, the end of the church, the last shepherd. Today, we are on that entry. The Vatican has never officially recognized or rejected the prophecy. They just don't talk about it. Now to a man with no name. In the 18th century, Vatican guards noticed a pilgrim who came every year, same day, same time, always silent. He wore simple robes, carried no money, slept outside. One year, a young priest followed him. The man walked straight into St. Peter's Basilica despite the guards. He stood before the altar, prayed without speaking, and vanished. No one ever saw him again. The priest who followed him later said, "I don't know if he was a man or a message." And finally, miracles the church never explains. In remote monasteries across Europe and South America, there are records of hosts, the Eucharistic bread that changed. One turned to blood. Another grew warm, hot enough to blister the hand. One was found as stone, solid, heavy, as if the spirit inside had fossilized. These relics were hidden, some locked in vaults, others quietly buried, because the church fears misinterpretation. But what if they're not accidents? What if they're warnings? Or evidence of something beyond symbolism? Three mysteries, a prophecy almost complete, a man who may not have been human, and miracles too real to make official. If sainthood is about power, purity, and proximity to the divine, then maybe the most sacred souls were the ones the world wasn't supposed to notice. They said science would answer everything, that the microscope would kill the myth, that data would defeat belief. But the closer science looked, the stranger things became. Let's begin with a book that vanished. In 1910, a Jesuit scholar wrote a manuscript titled The Structure of the Soul. It wasn't poetry, it was formula, charts, frequencies. He believed the soul had a shape, a pattern, a measurable signature. For 5 years, he tested it using early forms of magnetic imaging. He claimed he could detect a departure event from the body at the moment of death. His work was praised, then seized. The Vatican said it risked confusion. The manuscript was never seen again. Now to an invention few know exists: a soul camera. In the 1960s, a priest scientist in Argentina created a device using ultraviolet and infrared sensors. He claimed it could photograph energy fields around the body. He called it the anima lens. When he aimed it at living subjects, a glow appeared, unique to each person. But at the moment of death, the glow either disappeared or flared into brilliant, chaotic bursts. One photo showed a spiral of light leaving a woman's chest. It was never published. The church confiscated the device. Finally, experiments in consciousness. In 2008, an anonymous team in Europe tested monks and nuns during deep prayer. Their brain waves became synchronized, but something else happened. The electrical activity in the room, lights, sensors, magnetic coils shifted, slightly, consistently, as if the mind had created a field. They repeated the test dozens of times, same result, but when they published it, backlash came fast. The church issued no statement, but the research team disbanded. Silently, three mysteries: a missing theory of the soul, a lens that saw what eyes could not, and a human mind affecting the world around it. Maybe science didn't disprove spirit, maybe it found it, and maybe that's why it had to stop. Some secrets are hidden in documents, others in vaults, but the most dangerous ones are hidden in us. Because if we ever remembered who we really are, what we were created to be, it would change everything. Let's return to the beginning. Genesis says man was made in the image of God, but what does that mean? Some ancient texts say we were not just physical, we were radiant, carriers of frequency, light, thought, that the fall of man wasn't about fruit, but forgetting, losing access to what we already had. Now to the Vatican's greatest fear: unity of knowledge. What if religion, science, and consciousness were never meant to be separate? What if they were three sides of the same truth? Throughout these 76 secrets, we've seen patterns: censorship, burial, fear, but also connection. Maps drawn before history began, tombs no one dares to open, books written in languages never spoken, lights that descend from the sky, beings that walk among us, children who remember what adults forgot. The deeper we dig, the more one thing becomes clear: The world we were taught is incomplete. We were told to believe, not to seek. But curiosity is a holy fire, and once it's lit, it cannot be undone. So now you've seen what they tried to hide. The question is, what will you do with it? Why are some mysteries never meant to be solved? Throughout history, there have been discoveries so strange, events so chilling, that even science dares not touch them. What if some truths are too ancient, too dangerous, or too deeply buried to ever come to light? In today's video, we're diving into 33 unsolved mysteries from around the world, from ancient civilizations and forbidden science to bizarre natural phenomena and cosmic secrets. Some have roots in legend. Others are carved into stone, buried in the earth, or floating silently in space. But all of them challenge the way we see the world and ourselves. So buckle up. Here are 55 mysteries that will give you chills. Number 1. The salt mummies of Iran. In the darkness of an ancient salt mine, time stands still. Miners once trapped in a collapse are now eerily preserved. Hair, skin, even the look of terror frozen on their faces. These salt men have puzzled scientists with their undisturbed state for 2,500 years. But what's more chilling is that the site reveals layers of human history stretching back 7,000 years, and possibly something far older beneath. Some theories even whisper of Anunnaki involvement. Are these just victims of an accident or remnants of a deeper, forbidden past? Number 2. The luminous sea phenomenon, Milky Seas. Imagine sailing in pitch black, only for the ocean to begin glowing, a vast, pale light stretching for miles. For centuries, sailors feared these Milky Seas were omens or sea spirits. Today, we know bioluminescent bacteria create the glow, communicating through a mysterious chemical code called quorum sensing. But the question remains, why do they glow in such massive, coordinated waves, often triggered by no known source? Is this nature's language we still haven't deciphered? Number 3. Merlin's real grave. Beneath the ruins of an ancient fortress in Scotland, archaeologists uncovered a high-status burial. Legends say this was where Merlin, the seer, the wizard, the prophet, met his end. Is this just coincidence, or have we stumbled upon the real grave of the man behind the myth? Pagan, Christian, druid, magician. Merlin's many faces blur the line between history and legend. And this site might hold the truth we've only ever dared to imagine. Number 4. Xalen, the Norse shield of the sun. In Norse myth, the gods forged a divine shield named Xalen to protect Earth from the scorching sun. It was said to preserve balance between light and dark, chaos and life. Modern science sees a parallel, the ozone layer. But how did ancient people imagine such a concept long before atmospheric science? Is Xalen a metaphor, or a memory of ancient knowledge lost to time? Number 5. The 2-billion-year-old microbes. Buried beneath the rocks of South Africa lie living cells older than multicellular life itself. No light, no air, only chemistry. These microbes survive on geochemical energy and have been alive for 2 billion years. Not fossils, not echoes, alive. If life can survive in such extremes on Earth, what might be waiting for us on Mars, Europa, or beyond? Number 6. The Emerald Tablet, a stone that never existed, yet shaped centuries of science, magic, and philosophy. Said to be carved with the secrets of the universe and hidden beneath ancient Alexandria, the Emerald Tablet inspired alchemists, mystics, and scientists alike. No one has ever found it, but texts from the 6th to 12th century preserved its message. Was it a real artifact, or a code left by a forgotten intelligence? In 1976, NASA's Viking lander detected what seemed like life in the Martian soil. But the excitement faded when follow-up tests showed no organic material. Was it a false alarm or evidence of life unlike anything we expected? Even today, strange chemical signals on Mars keep scientists guessing. Maybe we've already found life and just didn't recognize it. In 1986, a cloud of invisible death rolled down a Cameroonian valley. From a still lake, carbon dioxide erupted, silently suffocating over 1,700 people in minutes. No fire, no flood, just air that could no longer be breathed. Scientists now know that volcanic gas builds under lakes like Niles, waiting to strike again. And many such lakes still exist, undisturbed for now. A manuscript from 16th century Romania describes a multi-stage rocket, fuel tanks, stage separation, energy transfer, concepts we wouldn't build until the 20th century. Its author, a German engineer named Conrad H., had no known access to such ideas. Was this a stroke of genius or a trace of forgotten knowledge passed down? Number 10. Big Talbot Island's Forgotten City. Along the Florida coast, archaeologists uncovered a thriving Native American city, one that engaged in trade, had structured communities, and even left behind early contact with Europeans. But what's strange is how quickly the Mocama vanished after the 16th century. Artifacts speak, but written records fall silent. What happened to this advanced society? Near Calambo Falls, archaeologists uncovered something no one expected. Massive logs joined with notches and carved joints, clearly shaped by intelligent hands. But the dating results were the real shock, 500,000 years old. This wasn't Homo sapiens' work. It belonged to an earlier human ancestor, possibly Homo heidelbergensis. Tools found nearby, digging sticks, flattened beams, and notched branches, show these beings weren't just surviving. They were building. They observed, planned, and executed construction long before agriculture or language as we know it. This isn't just a wooden platform. It's a message from a forgotten architect, telling us that creativity existed long before we ever imagined it did. In the ruins of ancient Ur, a massive step pyramid still rises from the dust. Built over 4,000 years ago, the ziggurat was not just a temple. It was the heart of a civilization. Constructed layer by layer from mud brick, it honored Nana, the moon god, and symbolized royal power and divine order. But when the Euphrates shifted, the city lost its lifeblood. People fled. The tower fell silent. Buried for millennia, it was rediscovered by explorers and slowly unearthed. Even in partial ruin, the ziggurat of Ur speaks of ambition, faith, and the will to reach the heavens long before Babel was ever written. Number 13. Asbestos, the miracle that became a curse. For centuries, asbestos was a marvel, fireproof, durable, and woven into ancient fabrics and modern walls alike. but hidden in its fibers was a silent killer. Once inhaled, its microscopic shards embedded in lungs, causing scarring, cancer, and death decades later. Ancient civilizations didn't know the danger. Modern ones ignored the warnings. By the time we acted, millions had already been exposed. The story of asbestos is a haunting reminder. Even the most miraculous materials can carry deadly secrets. And progress, when unchecked, always comes at a price. Number 14. Centralia, the town that burned beneath itself. In the quiet hills of Pennsylvania once stood a town like any other. Centralia was built on coal. It thrived on it. The ground beneath the town held veins of anthracite black gold that fueled homes, industry, and dreams. But in 1962, everything changed. A small fire was started in a landfill, meant to burn away trash. What the workers didn't realize was that the fire had reached a hidden tunnel, part of the abandoned mines snaking beneath the town. And once it entered those chambers, it found endless fuel. The fire spread invisibly beneath streets, schools, and churches. Gas began to leak through cracks in the pavement. Sidewalks buckled, roads ruptured, white smoke hissed from basements. Some residents collapsed in their own homes, overcome by carbon monoxide. Sinkholes opened without warning. A young boy nearly fell into one, a black chasm exhaling poisonous steam. One by one, the families left. Not because of fire, but because of silence. Because the enemy could not be seen or stopped. By the 1980s, the government declared Centralia unsafe. It offered buyouts, bulldozed houses, erased streets. But a few residents refused to leave. They stayed, holding onto their memories even as the town disappeared around them. Today, only a few cracked foundations remain. Street signs lead to nowhere. Smoke still seeps from the earth. And deep below, the coal fire continues to burn with no end in sight. It may smolder for another 250 years. Centralia is not just a ghost town. It is a scar, a warning carved into the earth, a place where fire met pride, and neither backed down. Number 15. The glowing rocks of Lake Superior, Uperlites. It began with a flashlight in the dark. A rock collector walking the northern shore of Michigan's Lake Superior noticed something odd. Under ultraviolet light, certain stones glowed not faintly but brightly, an electric blue, like hidden fire frozen in stone. At first, no one believed him, but analysis proved the truth. These stones were rich in sodalite, a mineral known to fluoresce under UV light, but never before documented in this region. They were dubbed Uperlites, a nod to the locals of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the Upers. What followed was a quiet revolution. Beachcombing became treasure hunting. Scientists, children, and tourists began walking the shore at night, searching for glowing stones in the sand. But beyond the novelty, Uperlites held a deeper lesson. They reminded us that beauty often hides in what seems ordinary, that even the most lifeless-looking rock may conceal light, waiting for the right eye to see it. In a world obsessed with the spectacular, these simple stones whispered something more profound. That wonder is everywhere. It's not always loud, not always rare. Sometimes it's underfoot, and all we need is the right light to see it glow. Number 16. The Menga Dolmen, Spain's underground cathedral. On the open plains of Andalusia, hidden in the folds of ancient hills, lies a monument older than the pyramids, the Menga Dolmen. To the untrained eye, it looks like a mound of earth, but step inside and the past envelops you. It is a megalithic passage grave, built over 5,000 years ago using 32 colossal stones. Some weigh over 150 tons, stacked, balanced, and placed with such precision that even today, engineers marvel at the feat. There are no records of how it was built, no writings, no blueprints, only the result. Inside, the ceiling arches gently, supported by monolithic pillars that still hold the weight of millennia. One capstone is hollowed in a dome shape to distribute weight, a technique modern architecture confirms as structurally genius. The dolmen is aligned not with the stars, but with a distant mountain, La Peña de los Enamorados. Perhaps it was a sacred marker, a monument to the ancestors, or a cathedral for the dead. Unlike Egyptian tombs built for pharaohs, the Menga Dolmen seems communal. Its walls bear traces of ochre pigments. Its floor once held the remains of many. This was not a place of kings, it was a place of people. A sacred space that connected earth, stone, and sky. Long before steel or language, someone imagined this, planned it, built it with reverence, and left it for us not as a ruin but as a reminder that humans have always sought meaning in form. That spirit can live in stone. Number 17. The subterranean labyrinth beneath Masada. High above the Dead Sea, the fortress of Masada rises from the cliffs, a symbol of resistance, of last stands, of choosing death over submission. But what lies beneath is a story less known. A world carved into rock, an underground labyrinth designed not for glory, but for survival. Long before its final siege in 73 CE, Masada had been fortified by King Herod. He built palaces and storerooms, but also cisterns, tunnels, and hidden corridors winding beneath the plateau. Later, Jewish rebels who fled Roman oppression took shelter here. They found not only shelter, but a hidden infrastructure of resilience. The tunnels held water, gathered drop by drop from desert rains and stored in darkness. Storage rooms preserved grain, oil, weapons. Passageways connected towers, allowing defenders to move unseen. But the tunnels also tell a psychological story of people preparing for the unthinkable, digging not for treasure but time, time to hold out, time to decide their fate. When the Roman legions built their siege ramp and approached with fire and steel, the defenders retreated underground. And when their end came, they chose it on their own terms. Today, these tunnels still echo, not with voices but with absence. They remind us that true strength is often quiet. It lives in the hidden places, the prepared ones, those who dig not to escape death, but to shape how it comes. Number 18. The Lost City Beneath Death Valley. Among the harshest terrains on Earth, legends whisper of a city beneath Death Valley, a realm called Shenna in native Paiute lore. Early explorers claim to have found tunnels, artifacts, even skeletons, but no one ever confirmed it. Geologists say the desert's geology makes such a structure impossible. Still, stories persist. Maybe it's a myth, maybe it's a metaphor, or maybe beneath the salt and silence, something ancient sleeps, waiting. Number 19. Exploding beached whales. It sounds absurd until you see it. A dead whale, bloated with methane, suddenly ruptures like a biological bomb. Tons of flesh and gas erupt into the air. It's disgusting. It's dangerous. And it's not rare. These explosions happen worldwide, posing a hazard to researchers and tourists alike. The cause: trapped gases from decomposition, building pressure until the skin can no longer contain it. A grotesque reminder that even in death, nature commands respect. Number 20. Malta's forgotten tunnel empire. Beneath the cobbled streets of Valletta, Malta, lies a hidden world. Miles of tunnels link forts, barracks, and shelters built by knights, expanded by empires. During wars, they held food, weapons, secrets. Now they hold silence. Some tunnels still bear graffiti from World War II. Others are sealed, their purpose long forgotten. Together, they form a living skeleton of history, showing how humans, in times of danger, dig downward for safety, survival, and hope. Number 21. The collapsing bridge in Ireland. In 2009, a train conductor sensed something wrong as he approached the Malahide Bridge. He slowed down. Moments later, the bridge gave way and crashed into the estuary. No one was hurt, but it was terrifyingly close. Investigators found that signs of wear had been reported for years. Ignored. Corrosion, erosion, negligence, a silent countdown to disaster. This wasn't a freak accident. It was a warning that even steel and concrete have limits. And when we stop listening to the signs, collapse becomes inevitable. Number 22. Orpiment, the beautiful poison. Luminous yellow, soft to the touch, orpiment once graced ancient manuscripts and Egyptian jewelry. It glowed like gold and was even used in cosmetics and medicine. But it held a deadly secret. Made of arsenic sulfide, this mineral slowly poisoned artists, scribes, and healers who used it. They didn't know. They only saw beauty. Today, orpiment is stored in museums with hazard labels. A relic of a time when what dazzled the eye could destroy the body, and no one would know until it was too late. Number 23. The Boot of Cortez, a giant gold nugget. In the Sonoran Desert, a man with a metal detector made a discovery that would shock the world. What he thought was scrap metal turned out to be a 27-pound gold nugget, shaped eerily like a boot. Pure, massive, and untouched for ages. It became the largest nugget ever found in the Western Hemisphere by hand. But the real story isn't just about luck. It's about persistence, and about how Earth still hides treasures, not only of gold, but of wonder just below our feet. Number 24. The Antarctica Alien Base Theory. Strange satellite images from Antarctica show geometric formations beneath the ice, straight lines, blocky shapes. Could they be remnants of an ancient alien structure? Skeptics say erosion and tectonics. Believers say cover-up. Science hasn't confirmed either side, but the fascination endures. Because in a continent so inaccessible, even imagination becomes part of the evidence. And maybe that's exactly the way it was meant to be. Number 25. The newly discovered Wari City in Peru. Near Cusco, archaeologists unearthed a forgotten city, massive temples, elite burials, and silver crowns. It belonged to the Wari Empire, a pre-Incan civilization with vast influence. But here's what's strange. The site also contains Incan elements, It wasn't just abandoned, it was inherited, modified. The Wari didn't disappear. Their legacy flowed into the empire that followed. One culture fading into another, like torchlight passed in silence. Number 26. The stone cone under the Sea of Galilee. Sonar scans beneath Israel's Sea of Galilee revealed a perfect cone-shaped mound of stones, 10 meters high, weighing over 60,000 tons. There's no mortar, just weight and balance. But who built it? Why underwater? Some suggest a ritual site from when the water levels were lower, 2,000 or even 12,000 years ago. But no artifacts, no remains. Only this massive, silent shape, guarding its purpose in the depths. Number 27. The Lula Rose, nature's rarest diamond. 170 carats. A pink diamond of impossible clarity found in Angola. Its beauty stunned the gem world. But what's more mysterious is its color. Unlike other hues, pink diamonds gain their tone not from impurities, but from lattice distortions in the crystal, caused by unknown pressures deep within the earth. We still don't fully understand it. A flawless treasure, formed by imperfection, just like many things in life. Number 28. Europe's oldest mosque. Buried beneath rural Spain, geophysical surveys revealed a structure that doesn't face Rome but Mecca. Its floor plan doesn't match a Roman temple but an Islamic mosque. Could it predate even the Great Mosque of Cordoba? If confirmed, it would rewrite history, showing that Islam's reach into Europe was faster, deeper, and more architecturally rooted than once thought. But until full excavation is done, the walls remain silent, and history waits in the soil. Number 29. The Atlas Resurrection. For centuries, fragments of a colossal statue lay scattered in Sicily. Now he stands again, Atlas, the titan who bore the weight of the sky. Reassembled using ancient blueprints and modern 3D scans, his return marks more than just restoration. It's resurrection of Greek thought, of artistic genius, of the eternal human urge to hold up the heavens, even when crushed by time. Number 30. Naked black holes, physics on the edge. Most black holes are wrapped in an event horizon, a one-way veil that hides the singularity within. But some theories suggest exceptions, naked singularities, raw exposed points where gravity tears the laws of physics apart. If they exist, everything we know about causality and time could unravel. No one's seen one yet, but if we ever do, the universe might never look the same again. Number 31. The Utsurobun Encounter. In 1803, Japanese fishermen pulled a strange vessel ashore, a hollow metal dome with crystal windows. Inside was a pale woman with red hair, clutching a box she refused to let go. She spoke no known language. Her ship had no sail, no rudder, yet was airtight. They called it Utsurobun, the hollow ship. Some think it was a foreigner. Others say she wasn't from this world at all. The ocean gave no further answers, only silence. Number 32. The Tunguska Blast. In 1908, a fireball exploded over Siberia, flattening 80 million trees across 2,000 square kilometers. There was no crater, no fragments, just scorched earth and burned sky. Was it a comet, an asteroid, a secret experiment gone wrong, or something else entirely? To this day, no one knows what detonated in the sky that day. only that it arrived unannounced and vanished without a trace. Number 33, the Black Knight satellite. For decades, rumors have swirled about a mysterious object orbiting Earth long before Sputnik. Radio signals intercepted, photos taken by NASA, whispers of alien observation. It's called the Black Knight satellite. Officially, it's just space debris. Unofficially, it's one of the oldest modern myths in space, and it still circles above us. Number 34, the Nazca Lines. Carved into Peru's desert floor, the Nazca Lines stretch for miles, massive geoglyphs of animals, plants, and geometric shapes, too large to be seen from the ground, but perfectly proportioned from the sky. Why would ancient people create art only visible from above? Ritual, communication, a message to the gods or something else watching. On Christmas Eve, 1945, a fire engulfed the Sodder home in West Virginia. 5 children vanished. No remains were ever found. Decades of sightings, letters, and anonymous tips followed. Some believe the children were kidnapped. Others blame a cover-up. The case remains open, and the billboard their parents erected still stands, weathered but defiant, as if still waiting. In 12th century England, 2 children appeared from the woods, their skin tinted green. They spoke no known language. They claimed to come from a world without sun. Eventually, the boy died. The girl learned English and said they got lost when they followed a strange sound underground. Was it myth, hallucination, or a rare glimpse into another realm? Number 37, the Bloop, a voice from the abyss. In 1997, a deep-sea sound rumbled through the Pacific Ocean, and no one knew what caused it. It was picked up by an array of underwater microphones known as hydrophones, originally designed by the U.S. Navy to detect enemy submarines. But what they heard wasn't mechanical, it wasn't man-made, it was organic. The sound, now famously known as the bloop, lasted less than a minute. It was low in frequency, but loud enough to be detected from over 5,000 kilometers away. To put that in context, no known sea creature, not even a blue whale, could produce a sound that powerful. Speculation began immediately. Was it an unknown species of giant squid, a prehistoric leviathan, or something far stranger, lurking in the deep trenches of the ocean floor where light has never reached? The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, offered a cautious explanation. They suggested it may have been ice fracturing, a massive iceberg breaking apart. But even they admitted the acoustic signature didn't quite match, and the sound was never recorded again. Not before, not since. One isolated signal, heard across an entire ocean, then silence. It is a reminder that over 80% of Earth's oceans remain unexplored. And in that black abyss, anything is possible, maybe even something alive. Number 38, the man from Tord, a passport through dimensions. The year was 1954. At Haneda Airport in Tokyo, customs officials processed a man who claimed to be on a business trip. He looked European, spoke French. His documents were in order: passport, travel papers, currency from multiple countries. But his passport bore the name of a country no one had ever heard of: Tord. When questioned, the man became frustrated. He pointed to a map and showed where Tord was, a small nation nestled between France and Spain. where Andorra exists in our world. He insisted it had been there for centuries. He said he had visited Japan many times. He even showed company documents proving business relationships. Confused, officials placed him in a hotel room under guard while they investigated. By morning, the man was gone. So were his documents. There was no sign of forced entry, no escape route, no trace. Was he from a parallel reality? Had he slipped through dimensions just long enough to be seen? Or was the whole thing a hoax crafted by time, rumor, and imagination? Whatever the truth, the story of the man from Tord endures. Because in a world of borders, maps, and identity, he was an exception. And exceptions tend to leave questions behind. Number 39. The Dyatlov Pass Incident Terror on the Mountain. In February 1959, 9 skilled hikers, students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, ventured into the icy wilderness of the northern Ural Mountains. They never returned. Weeks later, a search party found their campsite. The scene was haunting. The group's tent had been slashed open from the inside. Footprints led into the snow barefoot, some in socks, some with only one shoe. The bodies were discovered scattered over a kilometer apart. Some had died of hypothermia. Others bore violent injuries, crushed ribs, fractured skulls. One woman was missing her eyes, another her tongue. Strangely, no external wounds matched the internal trauma. Theories have ranged from avalanche to military testing, from infrasound-induced panic to encounters with something beyond comprehension. Some claim the group fled in terror. But from what? No animal tracks were found, no evidence of an avalanche. Their camera held eerie final photos, blurred lights in the night sky. Their final journal entry read only, "From now on, we know snowmen exist." Even today, Russian investigators cannot offer a definitive explanation. The mountain was later renamed in honor of the group's leader, Igor Dyatlov. But to this day, Dyatlov Pass remains synonymous with mystery. And whatever happened on that frozen slope, it left no survivors, only questions. Number 40. The WOW signal, a whisper from the stars. On August 15, 1977, a radio telescope at Ohio State University detected something unexpected. A sudden burst of radio waves from deep space. It lasted 72 seconds. It matched what scientists believed an intelligent extraterrestrial signal might sound like. No drifting, no distortion, just a clean, narrowband transmission. Jerry Amon, the astronomer monitoring the data, was so stunned that he circled the printout and wrote one word beside it: "Wow." That moment became legend. It was named the WOW signal. Despite numerous follow-up scans of the same area of the sky, near the constellation Sagittarius, the signal was never detected again. Skeptics say it could have been a reflected Earth signal or cosmic noise. But the frequency, 1420 MHz, is significant. It's the hydrogen line, a universal marker that scientists believe an alien civilization might choose to use for contact. One message, one time, never repeated, never explained. If it was a greeting, no one ever answered, or perhaps they're still waiting for our reply. Number 41. The Green Sahara when the desert was alive. Today, the Sahara is a vast ocean of sand, lifeless, scorching, unforgiving. but hidden beneath its dunes lies a forgotten past. Fossilized bones of crocodiles, elephants, and hippos. Cave paintings of humans fishing in lakes. Rivers that once flowed where now there is nothing but dust. Scientists have confirmed that thousands of years ago, the Sahara was a lush green savanna teeming with life. What changed it? Climate cycles called Milankovitch patterns, sudden shifts in Earth's tilt, or was there a catastrophic event that erased an entire ecosystem? The transformation was so complete, so irreversible, that even memory failed to preserve it. Perhaps what haunts us most is not the desert itself, but the silence of everything it buried. Number 42. The Devil's Footprints of Devon. In 1855, villagers in Devon, England awoke to an eerie sight. Hoof-like prints in the snow, stretching for over 100 miles. But these weren't normal animal tracks. They walked across rooftops, climbed high walls, and even passed over narrow rivers, as if no obstacle existed. Some blamed escaped kangaroos, others suspected birds, but none could explain the perfect symmetry, the vast distance, or the uncanny silence. Many whispered it was the devil himself, walking the countryside in search of something or someone. The tracks melted with the snow, but the chill they left behind has never truly faded. Number 43. The Dancing Plague of 1518. It began with one woman. She stepped into the street in Strasbourg and started to dance. Then another joined, then 10, then dozens. They danced for hours, days. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Others danced themselves to death. There was no music, no joy, just a compulsion, a force. Was it mass hysteria, ergot poisoning, a cursed ritual gone wrong? Or something more ancient, a forgotten god demanding tribute through motion and madness? No one truly knows why they danced, only that they couldn't stop. And maybe, under the right conditions, it could happen again. Number 44. The Curse of the Crying Boy Painting. In homes across post-war Europe, a single image became strangely popular, a portrait of a young boy, tears on his cheeks, staring into nothing. People said it brought comfort. But then the fires started. House after house went up in flames, and in the ashes the crying boy always survived untouched. Firefighters began to whisper. The painting was cursed. Mass-produced, yes, but always intact. People burned the paintings to break the spell, but some said doing so only made it worse. What is it about sorrow captured in paint that refuses to burn? And if grief could be trapped in canvas, what else might be waiting there? Number 45. The Lost Tribe of the Amazon. Deep in the heart of the Brazilian rainforest, satellite images revealed signs of human life. Huts, footpaths, crop patterns. A tribe untouched by the modern world, unnamed, uncontacted, and possibly unaware of the outside altogether. As deforestation creeps closer, so does danger, disease, violence, collapse. Anthropologists urge non-contact, but the forest is shrinking, and soon their silence may be replaced by absence. We often speak of protecting them, but what if they're the ones who were meant to protect us from remembering what the modern world has lost? Number 46. The global hum, a sound no one can find. It's a low-frequency rumble. Heard in Taos, New Mexico, in Bristol, England, in Auckland, in Seoul. It vibrates through walls. It keeps people awake. Doctors have no answers. Engineers find no source. Governments claim it's psychological. But thousands report the exact same thing, a deep, relentless hum that won't stop. Some say it's the earth itself. Others whisper about secret weapons, underground machines, or natural phenomena yet to be understood. But the most haunting part, some hear it, some don't, as if the noise chooses who can perceive it, and maybe why. Number 47. The dead internet theory. What if the internet already died? What if most of what you read, the comments, the posts, even the debates, are generated by AI, bots, and automation? What if you're talking to ghosts in a digital graveyard? This is the dead internet theory. It claims the web became synthetic around 2016. Engagements faked. Opinions automated. The illusion of conversation maintained by code. You might still be real, but how many others are? And if no one's really listening, are you truly speaking? Number 48. The Somerton Man, a death with no name. He was found lying on a beach in Adelaide, dressed sharply in a suit. No ID, no labels on his clothing. His pockets held a cryptic scrap of paper. Tamam Shud, meaning it is finished. Later, investigators found a hidden code in a nearby book, possibly a cipher. Some believe he was a spy. Others say a jilted lover. DNA has recently linked him to a living family, but no one knows why he died, or why his death was arranged like a puzzle. A human riddle, still unsolved. Number 49. The Girden Ghost Light. Along an old railroad track in Girden, Arkansas, a glowing orb appears without warning. It floats, it dances, sometimes it splits. Locals say it's the spirit of a murdered railroad worker decapitated in a labor dispute, now searching for his lost head. Scientists tried to explain it. Piezoelectricity, static fields, swamp gases. But no one has captured it. No one has stopped it, and when the night grows still, the light returns, wandering, watching, waiting. Number 50. The Phoenix Lights, a silent formation over the desert. On the evening of March 13, 1997, something vast and silent appeared in the skies over Arizona. Thousands of witnesses across multiple cities, from Phoenix to Tucson, reported seeing a massive V-shaped object drifting slowly across the stars. It wasn't one craft. It was several lights in formation. But to many onlookers, it moved like a single solid structure. It blocked out stars as it passed overhead. It made no sound. It hovered for minutes at a time. Some people watched in awe. Others felt paralyzed by fear. The official explanation given by the military was a series of flares dropped during a training exercise. But pilots, police officers, and even a former governor later admitted that what they saw was not consistent with flares. They described the lights as coordinated, steady, and eerily synchronized. Years have passed, but no definitive answer has ever emerged. The Phoenix Lights remain one of the most widely witnessed and least explained aerial phenomena in modern history. Whatever hovered above Arizona that night, it came without warning and left without a trace. Number 51. The Voynich Manuscript, a book no one can read. Discovered in 1912 by a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich, the manuscript that now bears his name has baffled scholars ever since. It is a small, weathered book filled with over 240 pages of strange, looping script and unidentifiable illustrations, drawings of plants that don't exist, astronomical charts with unknown constellations, women bathing in pools connected by mysterious tubes. The text is written in a language no one can decipher. Linguists, cryptographers, and even AI programs have all failed to decode its content. Some believe it is an elaborate medieval hoax. Others argue it contains hidden knowledge from a forgotten civilization. The parchment has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, but its origin, author, and purpose remain unknown. Was it a medical guide, a magical codex, a lost language, or something we were never meant to understand? To this day, the Voynich manuscript sits in Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book Library, a book that speaks no language, yet continues to whisper through time. Number 52. The Hollow Earth Theory, a world beneath our feet. For centuries, legends have told of civilizations hidden beneath the surface of the earth. Tales of Agartha, Shambhala, and vast underground realms have persisted in Tibetan texts, Norse myths, and Native American lore. According to the Hollow Earth theory, our planet may not be solid all the way through. Instead, it contains vast inner chambers, complete with their own ecosystems, cities, and perhaps even ancient beings. In the 20th century, explorers and mystics claim to have found entrances to this world in Antarctica, the Himalayas, and the Arctic poles. One U.S. Admiral, Richard Byard, reportedly described flying over a lush, green land beyond the South Pole. His journals mention an encounter with advanced beings who warned humanity to abandon its path of self-destruction. Official science dismisses all of this as fantasy. Geologists point to seismic data and core samples to confirm Earth's dense, layered structure. But the stories persist. What if the hollow Earth isn't a physical space, but a symbol of forgotten knowledge buried deep within our collective memory? What if we're not meant to reach it by digging, but by remembering? Number 53. The Van Meter Visitor, a town's night of terror. In 1903, the small town of Van Meter, Iowa, experienced something it could not explain. Multiple residents reported seeing a winged creature larger than a man, with leathery skin, bat-like wings, and a glowing horn on its head. It emitted a blinding light and a terrible stench. It moved silently through the night. Each time someone tried to shoot it, the bullets had no effect. One night, a group of armed townspeople gathered near an abandoned mine where the creature had last been seen. They waited in the dark, terrified but determined. Suddenly, the monster appeared, and this time it wasn't alone. Another winged being emerged from the mine alongside it. The two creatures retreated into the darkness and were never seen again. To this day, no physical evidence has ever been found, but the reports were consistent and documented by town leaders, teachers, and business owners. Was it a hoax, a mass hallucination, or did something awaken in that mine, something ancient and hungry for light? Number 54. The Sleeping Prince, a 20-year slumber. In a quiet town in Turkey, a young boy named Ahmet fell and struck his head while playing. He lost consciousness and did not wake up. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Doctors were baffled. Brain scans showed activity but no sign of awareness. His family refused to give up. His father, in particular, remained by his side every day for years, reading, talking, playing music. For 20 years, Amit lay silent in his bed, unresponsive to the world. Then one morning something changed. His fingers twitched, his eyes opened, and he spoke. He had no memory of time passing, no sense of the decades he had lost. Experts could not explain the sudden recovery. No known condition accounted for a coma of that length, followed by such clarity. Some called it a medical miracle. Others called it divine intervention. But those closest to him believed something else entirely, that his soul had not left, only traveled somewhere time does not touch. 55. The prophecies of Tatsuki, the boy who drew the future. In early 2011, a young Japanese boy named Tatsuki began sketching disturbing images. Scenes of tsunamis swallowing entire towns, explosions at nuclear plants, earthquakes shaking cities to rubble. Each drawing was dated, and soon after, those dates came true. He had drawn the Great Tohoku earthquake and Fukushima disaster weeks before they happened. At first, people thought it was coincidence, but as more drawings surfaced, each one eerily aligned with real-world tragedies, doubts faded. Where did he get these visions? He claimed they came in dreams, that he didn't understand them, only recorded them. But the most chilling part is not what he drew, but what he hasn't drawn yet. There are still dates in his sketchbook that have not arrived, and one final image remains covered, unnamed. The boy stopped drawing after that. Some say he grew silent. Others say he saw something too terrible to share. Whatever is in that final page, it may be a prophecy we cannot prevent, only witness. Number 55. The prophecies of Tatsuki. A Japanese boy began sketching disasters, planes falling, nuclear meltdowns, tsunamis before they happened. Each drawing marked with a date. Some came true, others haven't yet. He called them visions, messages, warnings. People dismissed him until the patterns became undeniable. Now only one sketch remains. Its date is still ahead, and the question is not if, but when. What does it mean to be alive? Is it the beating of your heart, the food you eat, or the air you breathe? What if life could continue without any of those? Across the world, there are individuals who defy biology itself. Cases so rare, so impossible, that modern science has no explanation. Take the case of Prahlad Jani, an Indian man who claimed to have lived for over 70 years without food or water, not even a sip. In 2010, he was placed under 24-hour surveillance by Indian military doctors. For 2 weeks, he consumed nothing. No food, no water, no urination, no defecation. And yet, he lived. Medical experts were baffled. How could a human survive without basic nourishment? Some believed it was a hoax. Others thought it pointed to a dormant potential inside us all, a forgotten connection between mind, body, and spirit. But no one could fully explain what they had witnessed. Then there are the stone people, sufferers of fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, a condition so rare that only a few hundred people on Earth are known to have it. In this disorder, the body turns soft tissue, like muscles, tendons, and ligaments, into bone. Over time, they become entombed within themselves, frozen, unable to move. Every fall, every injection, every bump could trigger more bone growth. Doctors can't operate. Surgery only makes it worse. There is no cure, no treatment, only the slow transformation into living statues. But perhaps even more terrifying are the parasites, not the kind you find on animals, the kind that live in people, in their eyes, in their brains. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing something wriggling in your vision, or waking up with splitting headaches only to discover a tapeworm nesting inside your skull. This isn't science fiction. It's neurocysticercosis, a condition caused by parasitic larvae traveling to the brain and forming cysts. It can cause seizures, confusion, and even death, and it often goes unnoticed until it's too late. Then there are those who return from death, cases of spontaneous revival after being declared clinically dead. No heartbeat, no brain activity, gone. And yet minutes later, life returns. They sit up, they speak. Sometimes they describe vivid experiences, a tunnel, a light, voices, and sometimes silence. Doctors call it the Lazarus phenomenon. It's rare, unpredictable, and completely unexplained. What force brings a body back after life has ceased? Finally, the most terrifying mystery of all: spontaneous human combustion. People bursting into flames without warning. No external source of ignition. No accelerants, just fire. Often, the surroundings remain untouched. Furniture is intact. Walls are unharmed. And yet the body is reduced to ash, bones charred, organs vaporized. The heat required for such destruction is immense, too high for a house fire, and yet it happens. Theories range from gas buildup to static electricity, but none hold up under scrutiny, and the cases remain shrouded in fear and disbelief. So what does all of this tell us? That perhaps the boundaries of life and death, of flesh and spirit, of body and fire, are not as solid as we think. That within us and around us, there are forces science still cannot grasp. And maybe, just maybe, we are not done evolving. Not physically, not spiritually, not yet. We often think of the ancient world as primitive, simple, rough stones, wooden tools, people just beginning to understand the stars. But what if that view is completely wrong? What if there were civilizations far older and far more advanced than we've ever imagined? Let's begin in the coldest, most remote place on Earth, beneath the thick ice of Antarctica. In recent years, satellite images and seismic scans have revealed geometric shapes buried deep under the frozen surface. Some say they are nothing, just tricks of light, but others believe they may be pyramids, ancient structures lost to time and swallowed by the ice. If true, they could rewrite everything we know about the history of humanity and about Antarctica itself. From ice to sand, we move to Egypt. The Great Pyramid of Giza has been studied for centuries, but in 2017, scientists discovered something new. A massive void hidden deep within the pyramid. No one knows its purpose. It's not connected to any known chamber. There are no passages leading to it. It's just there. Some call it a room, some call it a tomb, and some believe it was meant to be sealed forever. Far away in Brazil, archaeologists stumbled upon tools carved from stone. They were simple, yet advanced, and dated to be over 50,000 years old. The problem: modern humans weren't even supposed to be in the Americas that long ago. So who made them? Was it an unknown civilization? Or, more curiously, Did they belong to monkeys? Recent research shows that certain primates in Brazil may have learned to use tools thousands of years ago, enough to mimic the behavior of early humans. But could they really have crafted such artifacts? And if so, what does that say about the boundary between human and animal? In the highlands of Peru lies a stone gate carved into the rock face. Locals call it Aramumuru, the Gate of the Gods. It stands tall and smooth, a perfect rectangle etched into a mountain wall, but it leads nowhere. No cave, no passage, just solid rock. Legend says it's a doorway to another dimension, and that ancient priests used it to walk between worlds. Even today, visitors report strange sensations, vibrations, visions, a sense of being watched. Is it just a myth, or a forgotten technology that once bent space and time? In India, there's a temple unlike any other. The Kailasa temple in Ellora was carved out of a single mountain, not built, carved, top to bottom, one continuous piece. It contains columns, statues, chambers, and intricate designs. But how? Even today, engineers struggle to explain it. Some believe advanced tools must have been used. Others suggest lost knowledge, like sound-based cutting or ancient lasers. And still others think the builders were guided by something not entirely of this earth. And finally, at the ruins of Palenque in Mexico, an ancient carving shows a figure seated in what appears to be a machine. He leans back, his feet on pedals, hands reaching for controls. Smoke or flames seem to rise beneath him. Some call it a rocket. Others say it's an artistic metaphor, but the resemblance is undeniable. Why would a civilization over 1,000 years old depict something that looks like modern technology? And if they didn't invent it, did they see it? These sites, spread across continents, whisper the same truth. That something greater once existed, something that connected the earth, the stars, and the human mind in ways we no longer understand. We call them myths. But what if they are echoes of a history we've chosen to forget? Compass PH letter 1EA7N3, BI letter 1EBF, NM letter 1EA5T, Kong D letter 1EA5, UV letter 1EBFT. Some mysteries don't leave behind clues. No blood, no signs of struggle, no explanation, just silence. People who were there one moment and gone the next, as if the world simply swallowed them whole. In December of 1900, a supply boat arrived at the Flannan Isles lighthouse off the coast of Scotland. 3 lighthouse keepers were stationed there. All 3 had vanished. The door was locked from the inside. The clocks had stopped. Meals were left uneaten. Coats were missing, but only 2. No bodies were ever found. The official report blamed a storm, but others whisper of something far stranger, a force that took them without a trace, a rip in the fabric of our world. Then there's the Mary Celeste, a merchant ship found drifting in the Atlantic in 1872, completely intact, cargo untouched, no signs of violence, but no crew, not a single soul. The lifeboat was missing, but the sea had been calm. Food and water were plenty. There was no reason to abandon ship. Some believe they were taken by pirates, by mutiny, or even by something from the sky. But no evidence was ever found. And the Mary Celeste still haunts maritime history. In Tokyo, a man boarded a subway train during rush hour. CCTV showed him enter. He sat down. He waited. but he never exited, not at the next station. Not at any station. He vanished while the train was in motion. Police searched every tunnel, every camera feed. Nothing. He had entered but never left. Was it a glitch in the system, or a glitch in reality? And then there's the man from Tord. In 1954, at Tokyo Airport, a man arrived with a passport from a country that didn't exist. Tord. He was calm, spoke several languages. His documents looked real. Officials detained him for questioning. They placed him in a guarded hotel room. But by morning, he was gone, without opening the door, without passing security. And all of his documents had vanished too. No one ever saw him again. Was he a time traveler? A visitor from another dimension? Or something else entirely? Finally, we arrive at the Michigan Triangle, a region in the Great Lakes where ships, planes, and people go missing. In 1950, Northwest Flight 2501 disappeared from radar over Lake Michigan. All 58 people aboard were lost. To this day, not a single body has been recovered. Divers still search the depths, but what they find are strange magnetic anomalies, shifting compasses, flickering electronics, even balls of light that float just beneath the water's surface. Some say it's nature, others say the triangle is alive. Each of these vanishings leaves behind a single question. What if our world has edges? Thin places where reality frays, and sometimes, just sometimes, something reaches through and takes. Some mysteries don't leave behind clues. No blood, no signs of struggle, no explanation, just silence. People who were there one moment and gone the next, as if the world simply swallowed them whole. In December of 1900, a supply boat arrived at the Flannan Isles Lighthouse off the coast of Scotland. 3 lighthouse keepers were stationed there. All 3 had vanished. The door was locked from the inside. The clocks had stopped. Meals were left uneaten. Coats were missing, but only 2. No bodies were ever found. The official report blamed a storm, but others whisper of something far stranger, a force that took them without a trace, a rip in the fabric of our world. Then there's the Mary Celeste, a merchant ship found drifting in the Atlantic in 1872, completely intact, cargo untouched, no signs of violence, but no crew, not a single soul. The lifeboat was missing, but the sea had been calm. Food and water were plenty. There was no reason to abandon ship. Some believe they were taken by pirates, by mutiny, or even by something from the sky. But no evidence was ever found. And the Mary Celeste still haunts maritime history. In Tokyo, a man boarded a subway train during rush hour. CCTV showed him enter. He sat down, he waited, but he never exited, not at the next station. Not at any station. He vanished while the train was in motion. Police searched every tunnel, every camera feed. Nothing. He had entered but never left. Was it a glitch in the system, or a glitch in reality? And then there's the man from Tord. In 1954, at Tokyo Airport, a man arrived with a passport from a country that didn't exist. Tord. He was calm, spoke several languages. His documents looked real. Officials detained him for questioning. They placed him in a guarded hotel room. But by morning, he was gone, without opening the door, without passing security. And all of his documents had vanished too. No one ever saw him again. Was he a time traveler, a visitor from another dimension, or something else entirely? Finally, we arrive at the Michigan Triangle, a region in the Great Lakes where ships, planes, and people go missing. In 1950, Northwest Flight 2501 disappeared from radar over Lake Michigan. All 58 people aboard were lost. To this day, not a single body has been recovered. Divers still search the depths, but what they find are strange magnetic anomalies, shifting compasses, flickering electronics, even balls of light that float just beneath the water's surface. Some say it's nature, others say the triangle is alive. Each of these vanishings leaves behind a single question. What if our world has edges, thin places where reality frays, and sometimes, just sometimes, something reaches through and takes? The night sky has always been full of wonder, but sometimes it watches back. For centuries, people around the world have looked up and seen things they couldn't explain. Lights that moved against the stars, objects that defied gravity, beings that were not human, and yet not entirely alien either. In 1961, a couple named Betty and Barney Hill were driving through the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It was late. The road was empty. Suddenly, a strange light appeared in the sky. It followed them, hovered above their car. Then nothing. They woke up hours later, miles from where they had been, with no memory of the time in between. Betty began to have vivid dreams. Barney developed strange scars. Under hypnosis, they both recalled the same terrifying experience, being taken aboard a craft, examined by beings with large eyes, and then returned. Their story became the first widely publicized case of alien abduction, and it still echoes in UFO lore today. Then there's Ilkley Moor, a cold, foggy stretch of countryside in England. In 1987, a retired policeman named Philip Spencer was hiking alone. He saw a creature, small, gray, with long limbs and slanted eyes, run across the path. He snapped a photo. It's blurry, grainy, but haunting. Moments later, he lost 2 hours of time. When he finally returned home, he was confused, disoriented, and certain something had happened. Under hypnosis, he described being taken aboard a craft. He said the beings had spoken, not with words, but with thought. They showed him images of war, destruction, and warnings for Earth's future, and then they let him go. In 1980, near the Rendlesham Forest in England, American military personnel stationed at a nearby base saw lights descending into the woods. They investigated. What they found was a metallic object, glowing, silent. It hovered, moved, vanished. Over the next 2 nights, more sightings occurred. Radiation levels were measured at the site, and one of the officers, Jim Peniston, claimed to have touched the object. He later received visions of binary code in his mind. When decoded, it referenced ancient sites around the globe and a message: exploration of humanity. Was it a probe, a warning, or a sign we are not the first to be visited? But not all encounters come from the sky. Some leave footprints. In 1855 in Devon, England, a snowfall revealed something bizarre. A trail of hoof-like prints stretched over 100 miles. They crossed rooftops, jumped over rivers, went through locked gates. People called it the Devil's Walk, but others believed it was something else, a visitor from above, leaving a trail, not just of fear but of presence. During World War II in the Himalayas, Allied troops reported seeing strange lights above the mountains. Not stars, not planes, something else. They moved with intelligence, hovered in formation, vanished without sound. Some of the soldiers called them Foo Fighters. But these weren't tricks of light. They were observed through binoculars, tracked, and never explained. The war raged below, but above, it seemed someone else was watching. In 1967, off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada, something fell from the sky into the harbor near a small fishing village called Shag Harbor. Witnesses described a glowing object crashing into the water. It didn't explode. It sank slowly, leaving a yellow foam. Military divers searched the site for days. They found nothing, but unofficially, rumors spread. Divers had seen a metallic object resting on the seafloor, still glowing. And then it was gone, just gone. Across these stories runs a single thread. Something has been visiting us, not once, not by accident, but over and over. Different decades, different continents, same silence, same fear, same unshakable feeling that we are not alone. What if the future isn't coming, but already written? What if the boundary between this world and the next is thinner than we believe? Throughout history, certain people have claimed to see beyond time. Others have witnessed things they couldn't explain, not with science, not with logic, but with something deeper, something sacred. Let's begin with Baba Vanga, a blind Bulgarian mystic who lost her sight during a childhood storm. But when one sense disappeared, another awoke. She began predicting world events with uncanny accuracy. The death of Princess Diana, the fall of the Soviet Union, the 9/11 attacks, but not all her visions were about the past. She foresaw a world burned by radiation, a new race of humans, and in one chilling prediction, she claimed that by the 21st century, we would begin to glimpse visitors from other dimensions. Were they angels, aliens, or simply us from the future? In many cases, the supernatural appears just before tragedy strikes. People around the world have reported seeing dark shadows, figures at the edge of their vision. And then disaster, car crashes, plane failures, sudden deaths. These entities have been called many names: shadow people, watchers, omens, but always they appear before the pain. Are they warnings, harbingers, or silent messengers of something more ancient? Near-death experiences are another puzzle. Thousands of people who were declared clinically dead but came back described the same thing: a tunnel, a light, a voice, a profound feeling of peace. Some meet loved ones. Others see their entire lives replay in an instant. Doctors say it's just brain chemistry. But why are the stories so consistent? Why do blind people see? Why do children who never heard of heaven describe the same visions? Is it a glimpse into the afterlife, or the memory of where we came from? Then there are the signs hidden in plain sight. The Bible is filled with apocalyptic symbols: wormwood, the 4 horsemen, the sounding of the 7 trumpets. Many believe we are living in the end times: wars, plagues, fires, earthquakes. And yet in the midst of this chaos, there are also promises that those who look with eyes of faith will understand that nothing is random, and that even in destruction, there is a purpose. One of the most mysterious religious events in modern history happened in 1917 in Fatima, Portugal. 3 children claimed to see a glowing woman. She gave them secrets, warnings, and told them to return each month. On the final visit, thousands gathered. What they saw has no explanation. The sun began to spin. It danced in the sky, changed colors, moved like a falling leaf, and then snapped back into place. The event was witnessed by skeptics, scientists, and journalists. It's known as the miracle of the sun. But was it a miracle, or a phenomenon meant to wake us up? These stories may sound like fables, but millions believe them. Because deep down, something inside us knows. We are more than flesh and blood. That time is not linear. That life does not end in death. And that's somewhere between heaven and earth. Something is trying to speak. We like to think we understand the planet we live on, that we've mapped its oceans, measured its winds, named its storms. But sometimes, nature reminds us just how little we know, through phenomena that defy logic, and whispers that the Earth itself is still keeping secrets. In Antarctica, satellite imagery once captured something impossible, a massive crescent-shaped wave frozen mid-motion, miles wide, perfectly curved like a sickle slicing across the icy landscape. Scientists called it a weather anomaly, but no one could explain how water could rise in that shape and freeze so instantly. Some believe it was not a wave at all, but a remnant of something ancient beneath the ice, a tremor not just in water but in time. Across the world, sinkholes have opened with terrifying speed. In China, a 4-lane road disappeared overnight. In Guatemala, an entire building was swallowed in seconds. But what's more chilling isn't the size, it's the silence. There are no warnings, no tremors, just a sudden tear in the earth, as if the ground simply gave up. Where do they lead? And what causes them to open at just the right or wrong moment? In places like Honduras and India, there are reports of strange rains. Not water, but fish, blood, frogs. In Yoro, Honduras, residents call it lluvia de peces. It happens like clockwork. A storm rolls in, and when it clears, hundreds of live fish are flopping in the streets. No rivers nearby, no explanation. Some say it's a miracle. Others think it's something darker, a message, or a glitch in the laws of nature. Then there are the ice circles, perfectly round discs of rotating ice that appear on rivers in Maine, Norway, and Estonia. They spin in place, slowly, silently, like cosmic clocks keeping time only they understand. Some are as large as a football field, too symmetrical to be chance, too persistent to be coincidence. Scientists offer theories, but none explain the eerie precision, or the way the circles vanish just as suddenly as they arrive, leaving behind nothing but still water and questions. In some forests, silence is more terrifying than sound. There are places on Earth where birds do not sing, where animals avoid the canopy, and even wind seems afraid to rustle the leaves. These places have names, like Aokigahara in Japan or Hoia Baciu in Romania. But they share a feeling of being watched, of being unwelcome. In these woods, compasses spin, lights flicker, and people go missing. Some call them haunted. Others believe the earth remembers certain traumas and marks them. From frozen waves to rains of blood, from spinning ice to silent woods, the earth is not just a planet, it is a living mystery, and every so often it reminds us. that we are not its masters, only its guests. Some mysteries don't belong in any category. They don't fit into science. They escape religion, and they defy history. These are the stories that feel more like warnings, where objects carry darkness, where the unknown doesn't just visit, it stays. One of the most infamous examples is the Dybbuk box, a small wine cabinet sold at an estate sale in Oregon. Its new owner, a young man, soon began experiencing nightmares. So did his family. They saw shadows, they heard voices, and the box smelled of jasmine and decay. Inside were strange items, locks of hair, a stone tablet, and a goblet. But what truly disturbed him was the legend. The box was said to contain a Dybbuk, an evil spirit from Jewish folklore, one that can attach itself to the living. Each new owner of the box suffered misfortunes, illness, financial ruin, mental breakdown. Some tried to destroy it. Others tried to bury it, but the curse always returned. It now sits sealed in a museum, never to be opened again. But not all cursed objects are small. In London, there is a painting known as the Anguished Man. It shows a faceless figure, distorted and screaming. Its owner claimed the painting was mixed with human blood, and that every night it wept. Doors slammed on their own. Crying was heard from empty rooms. And one night, the owner awoke to find the painting had moved on its own. He eventually locked it in his basement, but the nightmares didn't stop. In Tokyo, a haunted phone number once circulated. It ended in the digits 9044 44 44 44. The number 4 in Japanese culture is associated with death, and those who dialed it reported hearing strange sounds, screams, whispers, even their own voices played back. Several people who called the number were said to have died mysteriously within a week. The number has since been deactivated, but urban legends say it still rings if you're alone. Then there's the legend of the cursed chair of death. In North Yorkshire, England, there is a 300-year-old wooden chair that hangs from the wall of a pub. Why? Because anyone who sat in it was said to die shortly afterward. Soldiers, builders, curious tourists, they all met untimely ends. One man scoffed at the tale, sat in it, and died in a car crash the same day. Since then, the chair was chained to the wall, never to be touched again. And in the American Southwest, there are reports of the Skinwalker, a shapeshifter from Navajo lore. Not quite human, not quite animal. It's said to wear the skin of the creatures it mimics, to move silently through the night, and to curse anyone who speaks its name aloud. People who encounter it often report a chilling silence, a feeling of dread, and glowing eyes watching from the darkness. Whether it's myth or something more, no one dares investigate too closely. These mysteries aren't just unsolved, they are unwelcomed. Stories that don't want to be told, objects that want to be left alone, places where reality bends and logic breaks. And sometimes the scariest thing isn't what we don't know, it's what we're not meant to understand. Some mysteries are meant to be solved, others are meant to be feared. But the ones that haunt us most are the ones that remain silent. They sit in forgotten journals, in dark corners of the internet, in stories passed down from those who swore they'd seen something. And no matter how many years pass, they never really go away. So maybe the question is, will we ever find the truth? Maybe the real question is, Can we handle it? Because every mystery begins with a moment, a shadow, a sound, a disappearance. And before we know it, we're left staring at the impossible, trying to make sense of a world that never wanted to be explained. But in that darkness, there's wonder, there's awe, and there's you, still asking questions, still refusing to forget. And that's where the real story begins. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next video.